Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be filling in the very first page in a brand new sketchbook. So this is actually the third sketchbook that I have going right now. I have a small 5x8 and a very large, I think it's like an 8x11. They're both art creation sketchbooks, and I think they're fantastic sketchbooks, but I can't paint in them. So I decided to treat myself, and this is an Etchr Everyday sketchbook. This particular sketchbook is a 6x9, and it has really heavy-duty watercolor paper in it. I purchased the hot press because I really like super smooth paper, because I do a lot of mixed media, watercolor, gouache, and colored pencil. And so this is my first try with the Etchr sketchbook, and first impressions, I think it's fantastic. I love the way gouache lays flat on the paper, and I love how the hot press still has a little bit of tooth to it, but nothing compared to cold press paper. I used to use the Strathmore 500 series mixed media sketchbook a lot. I would say that this is probably a little bit better, and then Strathmore would be I would rank it maybe like one step below this sketchbook so far, and I feel that way because the Etchr sketchbook, unfortunately, the cover is white, and I am going to be taking this camping, so I'm sure by the time I'm finished with this sketchbook, it's going to look absolutely disgusting. But I also like the paper a lot more than the Strathmore mixed media sketchbook. I don't know, there's just something about it that I really enjoy painting on this paper. This sketchbook also has an elastic to keep everything closed and tidy. The Strathmore does not, so I felt like my sketchbooks were falling open, or I couldn't like stick little things in there without them getting lost, or losing them completely, having them fall out. So I do like that aspect. This one also does have the pouch in the back, the little pocket, and I feel like this sketchbook has everything that I could possibly ask for. One day, if I feel like using cold press, I can go ahead and grab a cold press one, but typically I always will reach for the hot press just because it's my favorite texture. So far, I have only painted this scene, and I've done a couple of small portraits in a couple other pages. So I don't really have the best feel for the paper just yet. I'm not super comfortable with it. Once I'm done with the sketchbook, I will give you guys a better idea of how I feel about it. But for right now, it definitely gets 5 stars in my book. I really enjoy it, and I will probably be repurchasing this. I feel like it's a similar price point compared to the Strathmore Mixed Media 500 series sketchbooks, and for what you get, I feel like it's definitely worth it. I think those sketchbooks are close to like $25-ish, and this one was around $30, so a little bit more, but I feel like the $5 is worth it. I personally am a huge fan of making my own sketchbooks, because then I have complete control over the cover and the paper quality and any other little features that I want to add to the sketchbook. But sometimes it's just not really possible for me to make a sketchbook if I have, if I want it for a certain time frame. Like, I plan on taking this camping with me, and I just don't have time to put together a sketchbook. Also, I have found that with the paper quality that I'm looking for, it is actually sometimes more cost effective just to purchase a sketchbook. Sometimes just purchasing the paper on its own is comparable to, a $20 sketchbook. So sometimes I do have to factor that in as well. So let's go ahead and get started with the painting. I am using gouache paints, and I am using a very limited palette. I think I'm using black and white, and just a ultramarine blue, napthol red, and hansa yellow. I kind of wish that I had added a sap green to my palette, just because I feel like my greens look a little bit chalky, but I'm all in all very satisfied with the way that this looks. I do go in with some colored pencil at the end, as I usually do. It's part of my process, and I really like the way that this turned out. I feel like I could have added a little bit more contrast between the background and the foreground, especially with that little tractor in the front, but all in all, I'm pretty happy with the way that everything turned out. My reference photo comes from Google Maps. I like to just look on Google Maps to see if there's anything that really sticks out to me. I look at towns and areas that I'm familiar with, and if there's something that popped into my mind originally, or maybe like I passed by something and it kind of piqued my interest, I will try and remember that to go back. If I'm unable to go back and take a reference, I'll go back on Google Maps to see if maybe that scene is still as I imagined it was. This has been a fairly new practice for me. Typically, I draw and paint portraits and mushrooms and animals, so drawing buildings and scenes it's something that I don't typically do, but I have found out that I really love it. I have been a huge fan of James Gurney for a very long time, and this is something that he specializes in, I guess. If you ever look at his channel, you'll see that it's always these really, I guess, mundane, or they're just, your typical scenes that you see in any and every suburban town. So I really enjoy that he paints those scenes, and I decided to go ahead and give it a go a couple days ago, where I just drew a building that I see every day, and I absolutely love the way that it turned out. So this is actually my first attempt with gouache, and I am quite happy with everything and how everything turned out. It was so much fun painting this little tractor, and in reality, it's just a bunch of random shapes and colors. I had a hard time kind of seeing exactly the details because my reference photo was from Google Maps. You know, it's not the best quality photo, but I still had a lot of fun painting this little tractor, and I think it's just so stinking cute. I absolutely love the color of the garage that's in the back, those two garages in the back. I think it's so pretty and so different. Typically you see something like that and it's like a gray or brown, maybe a red if you're lucky, but that really pretty light blue color really, caught my eye, especially compared to the tractor. I use a combination of techniques as well. I like to go in really watery and light and use my gouache paints like a watercolor, and then I like to go in and add my darkest values first, because with gouache we're very lucky we can go ahead and add light colors on top of dark, where with watercolor of course you can't. So I like to use that to my advantage. A lot of the time I do like to put down a base tone first, especially you'll see this with my portraits. If you go back a couple of videos ago, you'll see that I painted a couple portraits with a bright neon pink background, and I just really love the way that it gives my portraits a beautiful glow. Because I'm not super familiar, or I don't really have like a routine down for a landscape or architecture type painting like this, I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do, so I just painted intuitively. And like with a lot of my other previous videos, I like to keep things very simple. As I mentioned before, I kept my colors on my palette to 3 colors plus black and white: red, blue, yellow, black, and white. That's all I used for paint. And then I just went in with maybe like 6 or 7 colored pencils, and I think even that might be too many. I just don't think I used very many. Mostly black, white, brown, and some touches of this really beautiful blue color that I'm putting into the tree now, and a little bit of green as well, just to pop up those green colors and make them look a little bit less brown and a little bit more green, I guess. So this painting to me is kind of important for the sketchbook. A lot of artists will make a big deal out of the first page in a sketchbook, and I just don't really think you need to be making a big deal out of it. And I feel like maybe that might be contradicting what I'm doing here, but hear me out. So I think that no matter what your first page looks like, you can still have a good quality sketchbook. So while I'm very happy with my first page here, it doesn't necessarily set the tone for the entire sketchbook. The rest of my sketchbook could be absolute crap, who knows? I mean, to be fair. So I feel like if your first page is kind of rocky, I don't think that it should ruin the vibe of the rest of the sketchbook for you. A sketchbook is an experience from cover to cover. You're supposed to enjoy the process and learn and better yourself at the end. Sorry, I just sneezed, but what I was saying was, your sketchbook is an experience and you're supposed to use it as a learning experience as well as to document your art progress. So if your first page is absolute trash, then I feel like it should really motivate you to work harder in your sketchbook so that your last page is that much better than your first. That's how I feel about it. I'm hoping that because this is my very first landscape-y architectural painting that hopefully at the last page I have continued with this process and I'm continuing to make steps to having better process, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I hope that this makes sense to you. I think I'm getting a cold, so I might sound a little bit gross and I do apologize for that, but I really hope that if you are thinking about getting a new sketchbook and you try the Etchr Sketchbook, let me know how you feel. If you think that there is a better sketchbook out there than the Etchr Sketchbook or better than the Strathmore Mixed Media 500 series sketchbook, please let me know. I love trying new sketchbooks. I love trying new paper. Honestly, I love trying new materials in general. So if there is a recommendation that you have for me, I would totally be down to hear it and I will most likely try it. The real test for this sketchbook comes when I take it camping. I mean, it's camping. It's gonna be damp and I'm gonna be sleeping in a tent and there's gonna be sand and mud and we're gonna be out in the elements. So I guess we'll see how this sketchbook holds up. I feel like that'll be the true test. Anyways, guys, I think that about wraps it up. I'm going to lose my voice. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you have any feedback, I would absolutely love to hear it. And I'll see you guys next time.